For day 25, we're going to be factoring out the greatest common factor of a polynomial. For those of you who don't remember, greatest common factor is the biggest factor that two or more terms share. You learned about that back in 6th grade, I believe. First thing I want you to do is add page 47, factoring out the GCF of a polynomial, to your table of contents. Number 2, add the following notes and examples to page 47. Remember to hit pause when you need more time to copy notes and examples down. Alright, now the notes here may be a little bit confusing until you see an example. First thing you've got to do is determine the greatest common factor of the coefficients. Those are your numbers in the front of your variables. Determine the GCF of each variable. Number 3, divide each term by the greatest common factor. And then number 4, rewrite like this. So you're going to have the greatest common factor, and then your polynomial will be in parentheses. So for example, that may look like this. You may have 6x, and then in parentheses 5x plus 8. So that would be what your answer would look like. Alright, so number 1, we have 9k squared plus 36. So we want to find the greatest common factor of 9 and 36. Always look at my smaller number first. So for 9, factors of 9 would be 1 times 9, 3 times 3. And then I start looking at the biggest one. Alright, 9. Will 9 be a factor of 36? Yes, it is a factor of 36. So that's going to be my greatest common factor. So then I take my greatest common factor, and I'm going to write it on the outside of what's in parentheses. On number 1, we don't have a greatest common factor for the variables because there's not a variable in 36. It's just 36. So remember, it's got to be common. So if you don't have a variable in one of your terms, then you're not going to have a variable as part of your greatest common factor. So once we've rewritten it with our greatest common factor right here, we're going to divide everything in parentheses by the greatest common factor. Greatest common factor stays on the outside of the parentheses. 9k squared divided by 9 is just going to be 1k squared, so k squared. 36 divided by 9 is 4, so plus 4. So that is my answer. For number 2, I've got negative 16 x to the 5th plus 80 x to the 4th minus 24x. So I'm going to start with my smallest coefficient. I'm going to ignore the negative sign for now. It's not really important at this point. So factors for 16 would be 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4. So then I'm going to start with my biggest number, okay? I know that 16 is not a factor pair for 24. So I know that 16 can't work. So then I look at my next one, 8. I always start with the largest and work my way down until I find one that works. 8 is a factor of 80 because 8 times 10 is 80. 8 is a factor of 24 because 8 times 3 is 24. So that's going to be my greatest common factor. So I've got 8, and then now I'm going to look at my variables because I've got variables in all these. I've got 5x's, 4x's, and 1x. Remember, it has to be a common factor. So look at the one that has the smallest number of x's. If this one only has 1x, then that's the common factor. So 8x is my greatest common factor. And then I'm going to rewrite my polynomial inside the parentheses. And then I'm going to divide. Remember, when you're dividing the exponents, you subtract them. So negative 16x to the 5th divided by 8x would be negative 2x to the 4th. 80x to the 4th divided by 8x would be plus 10x to the 3rd. And negative 24x divided by 8x would be negative 3. Don't forget to put your greatest common factor on the outside. And so that is going to be my final answer. All right, number 3, got 27m to the third minus 72m to the second minus 54. So I'm going to look at my smallest number, 27. Factor pairs of 27, 1 times 27, 3 times 9, and that's it. So I'm going to start with 27 first. I know that 27 is not a factor of 72 because I can't divide it evenly. So I know 27 is not going to work. 9 times 8 is 72, so 9 works for this one. And 9 times 6 is 54, so 9 is going to be my greatest common factor. Now look at your terms. I've got m to the third, m to the second, and there's no m. Okay, so I don't have to worry about the variables because remember it has to be common factor. If every term doesn't have a variable, then my greatest common factor is not going to have a variable. So I'm just going to have 9, and then I'm going to rewrite the problem: 27m to the third minus 72m squared minus 54. Now I'm ready to divide. 27m to the third divided by 9 is 3m to the third. Negative 72m squared divided by 9 is negative 8m squared. And negative 54 divided by 9 is negative 6. So that is my answer for number 3. All right, number 4. 6 plus 48n minus 48n squared. Look at your smallest number, 6. Factor pairs, 1 times 6, 2 times 3. Look at the largest number, 6. 6 is a factor of 48, so that's going to be our greatest common factor. The first term doesn't have a variable, so my greatest common factor is just going to be 6 by itself. So 6 plus 48n minus 48n squared inside. Now I'm ready to divide. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 48n divided by 6 is 8n. And negative 48n squared divided by 6 is negative 8n squared. So that is my answer for number 4. All right, number 5, we've got 45b to the fourth plus 50ab minus 40. So let's look at the smallest number, 40, factors. We would have 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, 5 times 8, and that's it. So let's look at 40. 40 is not a factor of the 45 or 50, so that we know it's not going to be that one. 20 is not a factor of 45 or 50. 10 is a factor of 50, but not of 45. 8 is not a factor of either one, but 5 is. 5 is a factor of 45 and 50. So we're going to use 5. Now, the last term here does not have a variable, so my greatest common factor is just going to be 5. I'm going to rewrite the problem inside parentheses. Now I'm ready to divide. 45b to the fourth divided by 5 is going to be 9b to the fourth. 50ab divided by 5 is just 10, so plus 10ab. And negative 40 divided by 5 is negative 8. So that is my answer for number 5. All right. Now the last one, the hardest. Negative 16, a to the 4th, b to the 5th, plus 40, a to the 4th, b squared, plus 8a squared, b squared. So I've got negative 16, 40, and 8. I'm going to look at 8 first because that's my smallest number. 1 times 8, 2 times 4. So start with the biggest one. Is 8 a factor of 16? Yes. Is 8 a factor of 40? Yes. So I'm going to use 8 as my greatest common factor. Now let's look at our variables. Okay, I've got 4 A's, and 2 A's. So always go with your smallest. So that means we're going to take out a squared because there's 2 A's in at least 2 A's in each term. Then I have b to the 5th, b squared, and b squared. So b squared is my smallest. I can take out b squared. So this is my greatest common factor, 8a squared, b squared. Rewrite my problem here. Hope I don't run out of room. Barely. All right, now my greatest common factor, of course, is going to stay on the outside, so I'm going to go ahead and write that. Now, I'm going to divide here. Negative 16 divided by 8 is negative 2. A to the 4th divided by a squared is a squared. And b to the 5th divided by b squared is b to the 3rd. Plus 40 divided by 8 is 5. A to the 4th divided by a squared is a squared. B squared divided by b squared is just going to cancel those out, so I don't have any b's. Plus 8 divided by 8 is 1. And a squared divided by a squared cancels that out. B squared divided by b squared cancels that out. So actually, I don't even need that plus sign. It's because the whole last term ended up dividing out. So that is my final answer for number 6. All right, last but not least, directions. I want you to complete the Factoring GCF practice Google form. And actually, number 2, I have changed my mind on that. We're not even going to have that. So the only thing to do today is the Factoring the GCF practice Google form. Also, the iExcel extra credit, which is listed on the NTI calendar. I can't remember exactly what the assignment is off the top of my head today. So make sure you check the NTI calendar. Do all those extra credit assignments. So, easy day today, only one assignment. If you have questions, call, text, email me, send me a message on Google Classroom. Good luck.